you ready to rock? We'll edit this bit out. Okay, so maybe you could just introduce the product to start off with.
Yeah, my products, it's just about the joy of staying in, and I wanted to focus on getting people to think about comparing, the simple pleasures to what we have now in terms of like indoor entertainment. And obviously a lot of it's quite similar. Mm-hmm. So obviously I've broken that down into 4 different things that I think people watching the videos, they'll learn a little bit, but mostly I want them to, think about the past.
Okay, so you've tried to put in there questions, not necessarily spelled out,
yeah,
but you're provoking the audience to ask or react in a certain way and ask certain questions.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about those?
The kind of questions for board games, for example, everybody can think of something like Monopoly, and it hasn't changed basically since it first came out. So people, I ask people in the video to think about it and think, imagine they can go through the same experience that people would have gone through then. Again, that's where people can really think about, I want people to think about how little people had. They still got so much joy from it then, because that was completely new. Nothing at all would have been there, and then it was black and white. And
so working for the Novium and having a specific target audience to cater for, how did that define the product as you were developing it?
I think, as an experience, I think having a real client made a big difference, because it meant that you couldn't take the brief, pick out bits you liked and maybe just twist it to whatever you imagined. Actually having a real client meant that you could do thorough background research, and there was more depth to what you were making because you were actually applying it to something.
So how did the research do an impact on the final product? You were mentioning it there. What kinds of research did you undertake?
Obviously we came here and had to look at things like their use of language. So we had to kind of emulate the kind of styles so that it matched, it suited the client. You could look at it and say, okay, that's part of them, that's theirs, because because it's similar, because we've done the research, and I think that had a big impact on it, because mine's very simplistic and it's obviously focusing on the emotions and the feelings, which is what a lot of the exhibits are about.
So you had research of the museum itself. You had to work within the client's style, I guess. But what other kinds of challenges within research were there?
Trying to find something different in terms of obviously the display layout and the function, making something that wasn't just going to be your bog standard interactive display, having a look at ones that have been done before.
So where did you find those?
Online, also visiting like the Science Museum and the Tate Modern, and
so like primary research, actually interacting and seeing how they work, not just reading about them.
No, not just reading about it. I think that made a big difference, because it's
Okay, so these are the animations that you've done for being used in Novium museums.
Yep.
And straight away, they feel very concept driven. So there's very little. It's almost like a logo way of animating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain to me a little bit about that process?
Yeah, after initially seeing the displays in the Novium and seeing the really stylised, simple logos they actually used with the titles, I thought that they were really nice, really bright, really vibrant. And I wanted to do something that really well with that.
That you had to do, knowing that you had a very short time frame. So you had 15 hours in which to produce an animation with no preparatory time whatsoever.
Yeah.
What other kind of concessions and compromises do you have to make as a professional?
Immediately, I needed a contingency.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the very first thing I did, I had an idea in mind,
Mhm.
and it was actually the second animation with the moving figures.
Mhm.
I thought, okay, I'm not entirely sure how long that's going to take me to do that, so I thought I'll do a contingency.
And what's that experience like of actually like completely having to work on your own without any kind of lecture input for a certain period of
Oh, it's crazy!
time?
It's crazy. I mean, it feels quite pressure driven.
Mhm.
You know, you have to try and plan your time and
Mhm.
try and get things done. Yeah, it's really.
I mean,
quite tough.
you've produced some really outstanding work, so I wouldn't feel that it was almost that much pressure. But do you feel you set yourself high standards?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm never really happy with what I finally
Okay.
achieve.
So if we take something like that and translate it to the real professional workplace, would that be a good or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing.
Because we've looked at that in
Yeah.
personal development planning,
Yeah.
how to like kind of meet clients and maybe
Yeah.
not.
It's a good thing. The perfectionist in me, it's a really good thing. You know, I'm always striving to better myself and better the product. It's knowing when to keep my mouth shut around a client that I'm not entirely happy with something.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to get hold of, but overall I think it's a good thing. It really is a good thing.
So was it good to pitch ideas to the client beforehand, even though
Yeah.
we had to make quite a few adjustments?
Yeah, we had to make
very realistic.
a few changes, and if I'm honest, when we were actually doing the pitch, personally I felt it was really good. I got some really good responses. I actually managed to bounce some ideas off the client, and we actually came out with a really nice solution, which if we could have fulfilled what we were originally going to do would have been brilliant.
But it gave you confidence creatively.
Yeah. I mean, the wonderful thing about actually talking to the client and sort of asking these questions and getting this feedback is it really does build where your concepts are going to go, where the final ideas are going to go. I don't think I would have come out with anything like this if I hadn't have bothered to ask those questions.
So, in terms of your personal development plan,
Yep.
we're really looking towards a professional career.
Yep.
You set yourself some targets
Yep.
at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And I did bring this up earlier
Yeah.
in another lesson. But we were wondering how far, because you set yourself some targets at the beginning of the year to achieve. You wanted to achieve these things within the remit of being a professional in practice. What are the professional expectations? How far along with that do you feel that you are now?
How far on do I feel?
So producing this kind of product and the that we've done.
Yeah, no, I think I've actually probably surpassed the targets I set myself.